Hi. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And thank you for pivoting to online. I actually had a fall earlier this week, which is like the fear of every disabled person ever. So being able to present online is a huge benefit. So I'm going to do the usual dance around sharing my screen and we will get underway. There we go. So, yes, my name is J Rosenbaum, and I'm an AI artist and lecturer in critical AI at RMIT in the School of Design. So I acknowledge the Bailai, Gurung, and Tarabalang Bunda people, who are the traditional custodians of the land the conference is being held on, that you're all in today. And I also acknowledge the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people on the land that I am currently on. AI artist has a really uncomfortable connotation these days. So when I started in AI nearly 10 whole years ago, I used the term because it was easier than saying machine learning based art. People didn't understand what machine learning meant. So it was a marketing term. But now it's synonymous with plagiarism and laziness. So I do still use it, but as my work is highly programmatic and uses AI to examine the issues with I use it with a sense of irony. Today, I'm going to be talking about my research and exploring the work I made as part of my dissertation. My topic was AI perceptions of gender. So one of the delightful things about doing a PhD in the early days of AI is that I got to choose an incredibly broad topic for my research. So I chose AI perceptions of gender because I was tired of seeing AI research come out that only looked at gender as a binary, that only looked at gender as a biological thing. Gender is so much more than anatomy, and it's so much more than just a binary. So I sought through practice-based research to create artworks that show AI responding to gender beyond its training. So I trained a biased neural network and sought to see if I could add data to it to change its biases and what it looked like if I did. I examined existing systems and looked at how they explore gender and what they see when presented with gender beyond the binary. And I explored a new way of looking at gender classification completely by assigning images that custom mix a color instead of a gender. So my first project, Set in Stone, seeks to explore whether we can change biases in an already biased system just by adding new data. I explored this through using several different generative adversarial networks, or GANs, where I posited that the change should be visible in the generated samples and that it's possible to debias a neural network simply by adding new data. This was observed first through transfer learning by retraining the GAN after training was complete, and by what I have termed disruption training, where data is added in real time to the data set and affects the training of the neural network through the assimilation of new data. In order to keep the data set balanced and fair, I created 3 different data sets using collections of 3D modeled heads, animated to capture a series of renders from different angles. Gender, in this case, was signaled through hairstyles and through the use of color in the non-binary set. I wanted the changes to be obvious so that I could track those stages of debias. The first version of this project was created using a DC GAN, or deep convolutional generative adversarial network. Through introducing new data, the GAN learns to change a transgender neural network, updating its knowledge and its experience as it goes. The final series of works added to my dataset were my exploration of non-binary aesthetics beyond biological essentialism. I chose to represent gender minorities with colored hair, showing the way we often control our gender expression with external means, like hair and makeup. Adding this next 1,000 works made the hardness of the marble start to give way, giving non-conforming self-expression color, joy emerging as the gender becomes unfixed, non-binary. Through this evolving conceptual artwork, I explore how my machine creates images representing gender and if it holds on to its trained bias. The datasets used by the machine are created by me using 3D modeling and echo the idealized masculinity and femininity of classical statuary. I'm purposely training bias into my machine and then attempting to unbias it to see how the artwork evolves as the machine learns that there are multiple genders and multiple gender expressions. In my results, I saw that the work could and did change, and that the resulting visuals, especially when new data was added, displayed an acknowledgement of the added data through artifacts that were introduced as the new data was added. Not only did I see a meaningful change in the results showing an integration of the data, but I also observed that adding new data in some cases helped stave off mode collapse in the DC GAN. Adding fresh data regularly to a long training GAN halted progress towards mode collapse and allowed it to train longer than I'd ever seen before. I would like to note, however, that the DC GAN did retain some of the bias of its imagery it was first trained in. So while it did change and update as new data was added, creating novel images that reflected that new data, the generative images over time reverted to mostly masculine images again, just as it's doing. Increasing the number of other genders represented in the data set did affect this reversion and weakened it. An even amount of data for each category was not enough to create an even number of related images, and the GAN would end up creating more of the images it was biased in as the training continued. The ProGAN, or progressive growing GAN, is a GAN that builds on the previous image. It created more seamless transitions, not only by incorporating the data cleanly, but by avoiding adding bias to the results. There were fewer artifacts during the creation, but the overall process was clean and effective. The technique used to debias here was one of my key observations, as I had to create directories filled with the same data set initially. So I had to create 3 directories labeled as, cis man, cis woman, and non-binary. But then I actually filled all 3 with the cis man data set. And as it was training, I then added cis woman images into the cis woman directory and transgender images into the transgender directory. And through this, replacing the data gradually with the new images, it started to learn and change, as we're seeing here in this video. And this is a fitting metaphor for how some genders need to make room for the representation of others. Some images in the grid did not shift at all. Some shifted to the second stage of data replacement and stayed there, and some shifted all the way, showing a diversity biasing of the data. The visual response was seamless, without artifacts or glitches, and the results showed a smooth transition between the gendered images. The shift could be easily observed as the new data was incorporated into the work. Through this work, I learned that debiasing a neural network like a GAN with new data is possible, but you need to work with and consider the architecture of the neural network before embarking on the process. I learned that the visual artifacts generated by the GAN as it learns and incorporates new data are similar to a mental disconnect, as it accepts the new information and replaces the old information with new. Some systems accepted the new information more gracefully than others, integrating the data cleanly and updating the generative images. Others displayed a conflict as the new data was integrated and old biases were unlearned. These works were presented as a large mosaic wallpaper and video installation, as well as a projection-based work. They showed not only the AI aesthetics and the debiasing of the neural network, but created dialogue about how we are the sum of our experiences, not just what you see on the surface. From a distance, you can observe the face as a whole. As you move closer to the work, you see the individual images that bring the main face into being. In the looping video, the face continually zooms into one square of many in the mosaic, which shifts and changes into a new face, developing constantly, which is then zoomed into again. Each face exists because of all the other faces that surround it, helping it become. I show here not only the shift caused by the debiasing and the AI techniques, but also the experience of being transgender, the exploration of gender as observance, as expression, as experience. The concept of gender as experience is one I return to in a later work, Gender Tapestry, discussing gender as a highly personal lived experience that is unique to every individual. So Set in Stone was successfully exhibited at Future Histories, at Hatch Contemporary for Midsummer Festival in 2020, at Gertrude Street Projection Festival in Melbourne, and at No Vacancy Gallery for the Midsummer Australia Post Art Prize in 2021. It was also shown during Epoch at Hobart as part of Epoch Loop, and will be part of a large-scale site-specific installation during Noxamars in June, using a huge wallpaper and augmented reality, which I'm quite excited by. And that's the wallpaper. This system doesn't get to show me what my upcoming slide is, so it's sometimes a little bit of a surprise. My next work, Frankenstein's Telephone, explores the why and how of gendered AI imagery. First, with the exploration of the broadly gendered collection captions, then as an interactive online project. The system works through a series of nested AI systems that all work off each other, like a game of telephone. I really enjoy nesting a bunch of different AI systems together. That's one of my favorite ways to work with AI, is to see how AI works with each other. So the first image is created with ATTN GAN using a text prompt that the user submits. This is the very first of the text to image generators, and you can see the wonderful high quality images it created as a result. We've come a long way, but I think that there's a real charm to these older images and these older systems, and we've moved on a little bit from them, which is sad. So yes, this uses a text prompt that the user submits. The image is then segmented using Deep Lab into its respective classified regions. And then it's reimagined as an entirely new work by Spade Coco, using those segmented sections to fill in the data used in those sections. So if the red is person, it tries to fill in the red with person type materials, creating quite a cursed assemblage in this regard, but it works quite well to sort of illustrate what it sees as a person. It's not a person-shaped blob it's been given. So it goes, okay, at this point, person has to be an assemblage of fabrics and clothes. So the final stage is for that image to be analyzed by im2text, which was the early version of CLIP, to describe images and reimagine it as a new caption, which would then be fed back into the system. This work initially began with my exploration of gendered imagery that AI creates with just words. By passing it through the multiple stages, I see how it observes gender and creates its own assumptions around gender. The segmentation stage removes all concept of gender from the image, labeling the segmented person as person. So seeing the new gendered words appearing in the caption is the key detail. It emerges thanks to the gendered language in the training data set for the caption writer. So I observed some clear gendering of the people in the dataset images and captions. Mass workers are used. This was the people at MS Coco used Amazon Mechanical Turk for their captioning. And as mass workers are used to caption dataset images, I gained a bit of an understanding of the reasons behind the gendering of these barely human appearing images. Background data plays a large part in the gender of the person, as does the action they're supposedly doing. So through this process, I wanted to consider how neural networks and machine vision deal with gender and how the design of these neural networks and technologies reflect the bias and the perspective of the humans who designed these artificial intelligence systems. All AI systems are trained using data sets selected and curated by people, and therefore they reflect inherent bias. But what's interesting is interrogating how each AI responds to its training parameters and generates outputs that evolve and shift over time. This led me down a rabbit hole exploring the internal workings of the underlying data set and conversing with its creators. Gendered language was in almost every human caption I could find, even if part of the person was barely visible. The people captioning the data set felt a need to gender the person, potentially incorrectly. So if the person was a tiny silhouette or just a hand pointing from the side, that image was still gendered. This raises discussions around the use of mass worker services like Amazon Mechanical Turk and how the instructions to them are worded. There's little to no training in these situations, just a short series of instructions. And it strikes me that a specialist could be hired to specify clearer instructions to avoid gendered outcomes, especially the occasional sexist or racist outcome I observed in the data set. This exploration shows not only what AI systems see when they look at us, but also how gender is perceived by humans and how this perception creeps into the result of the AI system. Gender from a machine classification is due to a human input. So while an AI will disregard gender when instructed, when gendered words are included, they will be added, sometimes inappropriately, due to background image data and the actions of the perceived human. Even the smoothness of the face can determine gender. So these earlier systems would generate, if the prompt included woman, it would generate a very, very smooth face like we're seeing here. These are somewhat disconcerting images. We're going to go into that. They're unnecessarily complex and strange, alien blobby figures, almost entirely with pale skin. And these creatures are how the machines see us. Without any given knowledge of the number of eyes, noses, arms, legs, fingers that humans generally have, machines will dream of fleshy blobs with any number of appendages. I do use terms like dream and stuff like that. I know that it's problematic to anthropomorphize AI, but it helps me feel a connection with the systems that I work with on a daily basis. I know that they don't literally dream. It's hard to see gendered elements in the images as human, which leads me to wonder what machines see that allows them to judge a human as a particular gender. So a lot of people recoil in horror at these images of people, and that points to the uncanny valley effect, where people react negatively to those who appear different. The visual implications of this work extend to how anyone outside of the accepted norm is perceived, be they gender creative or with a facial or limbic difference. Many transgender people experience hatred and uncanny valley-like reactions purely because they appear different to the expected binary convention. I further sought to challenge people's attitudes by creating an additional interactive segment where users on mobile devices could upload images of themselves and see how the AI chain interprets those images, reimagining their faces as squishy blobs and sometimes misgendering them in the caption. The reaction to this was very strong. By having an AI repaint an image of the user and then recaption its painting, Frankenstein's telephone challenged the assumptions people had about themselves and about others. So this work uses the earliest in text-to-image generators, which was responsible for the highly bizarre images we see of humanity. I took this project further to explore how the surge in generative text to AI has changed the way AI renders humans who fall outside the gender binary. This offshoot of my research has been an ongoing rabbit hole of AI bias and needs its own paper and talk to really explore in depth. I keep adding to it as each new version comes out, and it keeps getting more and more complex and more built upon. I really need to actually set a cutoff date and finish it. This work has been exhibited as part of works on iPad in Future Histories for Midsummer, and as an online interactive artwork funded by the City of Melbourne COVID-19 Arts Grants and shown as part of Melbourne Fringe Festival. Unfortunately, as the technology is old, the services that were hosting the AI models have been taken down. This speaks to a problem I'm seeing over and over, where the older technologies are being pushed away by the newer technologies and not allowing us to interrogate them or observe the growth and change. Now, you can test this by Googling deep dream generators. They used to be everywhere, and now they're all prompt-based generators, which don't emulate deep dream properly. But when I have time, I'm going to go through some of these older technologies and add them to a service like Replicate so that I can host them and reopen projects like this one. I also want to reimagine Frankenstein's telephone with newer technologies and compare them. I think it's important that we don't lose track of the older systems. They may have been janky and hard to control, and I get that, but they're also a moment in time, and they tell us something about the growth of AI. They're part of AI's art history. When I published my thesis, it was already out of date. Move fast and break things extends to all areas of AI, and personally, in the case of this artwork, where the old technology was sunsetted in favor of the new. Gender Tapestry was the third and final project in my PhD series, aiming to bring together all of my findings into one work. The views I have refined through exploring the ways in which computers perceive gender through AI systems as conceptual artworks, bring it all together. So my aim for this work was not only to illustrate that gender classification is unfeasible from the perspective of accurately gauging a person's gender merely from their face, but also to show gender as a literal spectrum, as a 3D color space, and that gender is a unique experience based on the sum of our lived experiences, our histories, our environments, our relationships with our bodies. Users can submit an image of their face, which is then classified using a multi-label classifier that works with several pronouns. And the user will receive, instead of a gender, a custom mixed color based on RGB. The custom color is used to render the output as a simplified Warhol-esque image in both light and dark variations. This generated image is then incorporated into a library of images, a dataset used to create a colorful mosaic of GAN-generated works, where the user's image is added to the GAN to disrupt the outcome. As more people are classified, more colors are added to the library, prompting both the GAN results and the mosaic to grow with increasing complexity. The classifier rates gender based on percentages rather than a binary system. This provides a set of numbers that can be rendered into an RGB color to assign each user a unique color. But while several colors may be similar, it's my hope and current experience that most colors are unique. And the uniqueness of the color corresponds to the idea that gender is a unique experience, just like color perception, and that while some results will correlate, the majority will experience subtle differences. This is like gender in that many experiences correlate, but they're all subtly different because there's a cat behind my chair, sorry, because gender is informed by our life experiences and our own personal perception of our own gender. So it is actually online. It should be, yes, it's running. So you can go to the website while I'm speaking, get your own unique color and get it. What are you doing back there, Kat? And Sorry. And get your own unique color, add it to the mosaic, and watch as it learns and grows. This color spectrum of gender is a unique concept. I developed the test classifier. Wait, what are you doing back there? It's always the way, isn't it? Cats are. Okay, I think he stopped. Nope. That's okay. I'm just going to roll on and try not to let it distract me. I developed the test classifier on entirely generated faces. The idea that an external person assigning a gender or a machine classifying a gender to a person they don't know seems very presumptive to me. Assigning gender labels to a fabricated person felt less problematic, as the pronouns I assign them are as artificial as they are. So there's an artificiality to the entire project. And I think it's a powerful premise to classify real humans using a system that has been trained on artificial humanity, a powerful statement about the social construct of gender. These artificial humans have never had an experience of gender. The only signs by which I could classify each image were their features. Ironically, this is how classifiers work in general, but they often exclude details like hair, makeup, clothing, jewelry, whereas I chose to use all of the available information to decide. At times, I chose based on instinct when I was classifying them and putting them in there, labeling them. But at other times, I would actually pick randomly or pick the opposite of my instinct just to subvert any inherent biases of my own perception. Gender is not always apparent from a person's outward appearance or aesthetics. And at times, I chose to subvert my own impressions to ensure that I didn't end up reinforcing my own subconscious biases. Spoiler alert, I still did. They, them is the highest representation, but I'm okay with that, I find. I chose to assign pronouns rather than genders because I felt that these characteristics are less inherently problematic when used to classify, but also that it would fit neatly with the nature of the multi-label classifier, where people sometimes use more than one set of pronouns. This work has been developed into an interactive web project and was exhibited as part of Melbourne Fringe Festival in 2022 for Digital Fringe, NeurIPS 2023, CVPR 2024 very soon, and currently on at Execute Photography at RMIT Gallery now until early May. So yes, if you go to the website at gendertapestry.com, you can upload an image of yourself, receive your very own color classification, and contribute to the ongoing community mosaic. But don't worry, your images are securely stored and will be deleted after 48 hours. This project is hosted on Nectar at Monash and is a limited use project. It will be, the entire project will be gone soon. I only ever spin up an instance for a showing and the images are not stored. So this video is from the Acme showing, which ended up being quite successful. And I was really delighted with how people ended up interacting with the works. So, final observations. Initially, humans are told how to perceive gender. They learn what gender is from their parents, their teachers, and peers. As they grow and learn, they learn to perceive gender, how they want to perceive it. They research or they don't. They learn and listen, and their understanding of the concept of gender grows. Likewise, machines are taught how to perceive gender by humans. They are shown images and told that those images correspond to genders. And AI will not update its definitions on gender unless instructed to. It will not change its perspective or enhance its understanding unless it is specifically retrained. It can only do as its instructions permit. It then falls to the people training the AI and constructing the data sets to ensure that it is trained without bias. A computer itself has no inherent bias. It's only taught that bias as it learns and incorporates biased data and algorithms. The people working with the AI, therefore, need to understand the potential for bias in all areas and the inherent issues in facial classification tasks, including gender classification. People are naturally, consciously or unconsciously biased, and their inherent biases creep into their work. We can help subvert bias in AI by being self-aware of our own biases and our own issues. Gender is an ever-evolving social construct informed by experience and upbringing. Similarly, AI is an ever-evolving machine construct with human-supplied inputs that could be equated to a form of experience and upbringing. Raising an equitable AI requires the voices of many and the intention to listen when issues are exposed. As we're currently in the nascent stages of understanding AI, now is the best time to explore how they interrelate. Untangling the convergence of machine learning and societal change is a key requirement right now, especially as AI development is so rapid. By the time my exegesis was published, many of the technologies I discussed were considered obsolete. However, the themes and concepts, the methods used in questioning these technologies, and the exploration of gender must continue to be discussed. During the term of my PhD, some of the language changed around gender as we became more aware of each other and our identities. It's most likely that one day the language around gender as used in my thesis will be outdated. So I made every attempt I could to use terms that were correct at the time and with good faith. And as AI and gender continue to evolve, they must be considered together and informed by each other's understandings and development. We've got to keep developing in good faith, trying to constantly evolve our understanding and our update our assumptions. Never stop learning. The aesthetic implications of my work extend from historical ideologies of classical marble to mosaic assemblages and modern pop art. I explore the aesthetics of generative work and what that implies about AI perceptions of humanity. AI generative artwork has specific aesthetics that I've sought to explore and celebrate in Frankenstein's Telephone and then subsequently subvert with Gender Tapestry and Set in Stone. The aesthetics lean towards glitch aesthetics sometimes. However, without using specific training, we see grotesqueries of humanity brought to the fore, with approximations of humans constructed without any real understanding of how people are assembled. The perception of what a person is in this context is very flexible and can be molded into any container marked person. A person is a fungible entity that is, to an AI, nevertheless a person, even if they don't fit the prescribed concept we hold in our heads. The glitching that occurs is vanishing from AI-generated works. However, as illustrated in my piece Set in Stone, those artifacts are indications of the learning process in earlier AI systems. I also equated gender with color in new ways by exploring gender as a three-dimensional color spectrum in an evolving work that unites generative images with computer vision and classification. My work is about the nature of gender and the nature of perceiving gender. It's about my lived experience as a gender minority, and it is about examining what gender means to each of us. I've explored how to debias gendered works, how AI creates and genders images, and how to create a new way of perceiving gender. We're at a critical juncture of technological and sociological advancement, both with the surge of AI training and with recent sociological advancements in how we think and talk about gender. The time is ripe to merge those developments and to realize we cannot train machines in the outdated social mores of the past, but rather to think ahead to a new stage of development and understanding of ourselves and our AI. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jay. That was really, really interesting. I've actually already a little interesting. I made a couple of selfies, one that was grayscale, and one that was colour, put them up and came up with really quite different results. It was quite fun. It's always fun to see yourself in a different aspect. That's not on? Right. Now, do we have any questions from the floor for Jay?
I'll stop so I can see you all.
No? That's fine. I'm sure I quite imagine that everyone else is doing something quite similar to what I did. Oh,
I do have a question. Will you repeat it into the mic?
I will.
Yeah. So I am wondering, do you have any opinions on, I guess, beyond visual representations of gender? How might AI represent gender, if at all, through things like audio, or if we eventually get into the realm of AI generating other types of sensory information like smells or tastes?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. So we actually, there are a couple of things related to that. So in terms of audio, there are different systems that will analyze the pitch of your voice and will determine your gender based on sort of your pitch and intonation. They're very, very rudimentary. Apparently my voice is actually fairly non-binary, which I found rather gratifying. But yeah, there's also some analysis about the use of AI voice assistants and how so many of them are predominantly feminine coded and what we can do about that. So there's some papers on that. There's also a paper on from Twitter called about an algorithm called Twisty that analyzes people's typing patterns and genders them based on how they write, which is terrifying.
Is this profiling for you?
Yeah, it's absolutely profiling.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the
Oh, great.
Thanks for the talk. And now I've got my question, of course. I've gone in there, did it uploaded during this and added to it. And I noticed it said that the images only held, or you said that the images only held for a day. Does that mean like a couple of days' time it's going to be completely new images, and the one that's there, and none of the other ones remain to inform it or learn from it?
No, every 48 hours, the binary images from the mosaic are deleted. The photo you upload is deleted after 24 hours from the GAN. So the GAN starts learning again every day. But the mosaic, new ones are added because it's an ongoing exhibition at the moment. People come into the gallery and they add their images. So it's quite nice and satisfying to see the new images coming in and leaving. It does, it's almost like, so some days it's less smart than others because there are fewer images. So it doesn't have quite the richness that it does if a lot of people are interacting with it.
It'd be fascinating to see how it starts at the beginning from 0 images in. Does initially. I'd love to see something like that. A computer set up here at Everything Open, where conference goers can come up and do it and see what the face of Everything Open look like.
Oh, there's something.
That would have been fun. I am going to be putting up some videos of the training process soon, though. There is one on YouTube from Acme where it started with the first image uploaded, and then it's developed. So that's quite a fun one to observe.
Oh, cool. Linky.
Any more questions? Anyone else? No. Look, thank you so much, Jay. That was really, really interesting and informative. And for everybody else, we've got a little change of rooms. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.